Can you get Catherine in this? Yep. Catherine, step a little closer. Friends, and I want to refer to all of you as friends. You're my brothers and you're my sisters. And Victoris is my brother. Out of all the men on planet Earth, Victoris I resonate with more than any other man that I've ever met. And this lady standing next to me, Catherine Clark, I want to introduce her because she's one of the finest young women, most intelligent women, and I know more about her than you do right now. But after she introduces Vic, I think that you're going to get to know Catherine a little bit better. She's a motivational person behind leaders of the world. Catherine, thank you so very much for being here. I want to say this. Catherine gave up an event that possibly should have been in front of 500 or 5,000 people. She gave that event up to be here with Victor and with me and the first Health Crusade. So welcome her.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, only 2 times in 30 years did Victoria say, I would like you to come to this event when I wasn't really planning to come. And this is the 2nd time, and I told John, just getting on the airplane and of course always being with Victorious is a fabulous experience and very rewarding and a huge blessing. But just getting on the plane, we were able to meet Fred, the water doctor who's here, and have a conversation with him and hang out with Dr. C, and of course get to be with you all here. And it's just been a very powerful experience for me, and I'm giving thanks. And I want to also say that we have some new guests today, some friends of ours who've driven down up from Arkansas to be here, and Dave Toya and his wife Samantha and daughter, thank you. I'm nervous. I'm just showing off up here, seeing if you're listening.
Congratulations.
We're listening.
I'm sorry. Anyway, he's also an Essene minister. And Victorious is an Essene bishop. And y'all may know that there were the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and the Essenes tradition. And Jesus was a member of the Essene tradition. And David has a wealth of information, and maybe you guys will get to talk to him on the break. But in terms of introducing Victorious, Victorious was born during the war in Lithuania, and it was a very difficult time. And there were, he was right there where the troops were fighting, where the bombs were going off, and people were being blown to pieces and dying and starving. And his family was sent to a refugee camp in, I think, Germany for a while, and then they came over to the United States. And there were 3 families living in a very, very small home, and all the adults were out trying to establish a life for the children there. And he had developed a great deal of, what we probably call post-traumatic stress syndrome today, but a great deal of symptoms. And he had degenerative arthritis, he had bleeding ulcers, he had extreme acne, and he also didn't speak. And, so when he shares with you the message that he's going to share with you today, you will be helped, I think, by understanding that he found this way of life because he really had to save himself first. And it's really been an amazing journey that he's been on, and it's a privilege and a real blessing to get to be with him here. I want to acknowledge you guys for coming and thank John and his assistants for putting this together. Put your hands together for Victorious Kolinskas.
You might inquire, why am I wearing this name? It probably would be a good question. Well, after hearing Dr. C speak, I feel I'm hanging out with very rebellious people, and I do not want to be on the hit list so they could recognize me. However, I am a very daring person, and this is going to be show and tell. I am Victorious, number 4, the letter U.com. The future lies in communication, and our power is in cyberspace. Our numbers are growing to many. Even such laid back and yet daring individuals as Oprah, who took on the meat industry and won, risking her career, risking her future, now is once again with a cardiologist. Dr. Oz is telling people something that could influence radically the $2 trillion drain in our economy. The management of disease, which is erroneously being called health care. It's Band-Aid upon Band-Aid and another Band-Aid, and the next thing you're Band-Aid together and you're wrapped like a mummy, totally unalive zombie. So I said, show and tell. Why did I bring this little bag? Well, number one, it's already past the mosquito season, but it's one of the best protections against mosquitoes, better than any spray you could get on the market. And if you're out in the wilderness, Arkansas, Missouri, I'm going to give you some helpful clues what to do with this bag besides protecting yourself against mosquitoes, because I want to give you help. First of all, most of you are exposed now and then, or quite often, frequently, and I had to find a solution. Poison ivy. Poison oak. That property that I lived on with Brother David Toy and Samantha, oh, does it have poison oak, poison ivy? It is itch haven. Yet, I managed to thrive without having all kind of marks all over my body. Every time I started developing that itch and those little scratchy, bumpy, there's a solution. All you do is go to your local grocer, buy some bananas. Eat the bananas and save the peels. Yellow peel, rub it on not only your poison oak or poison ivy, it could be a 3rd degree level, and in 3 days it will be gone with no itching. You'll be itch-free for about 12 hours, and in the evening you rub yourself down with the inside part of the banana peel. Now if you get stung by a spider or a bee, of course bee or any of the other of their families, remove the sting and rub yourself with a banana. It'll be gone, that itch. The spider bites, I have many spiders in my room. It totally removed the itch and quickly recovered. Also, it makes your skin much more youthful. So don't throw away your bananas. Rub it on your face in the morning. People are paying top dollar. They're paying top dollar to facelift and everything. I'm in my 70s. I attribute my beauty to banana peels. What could we do with this bag? Well, you can go to any hardware store, and I'll promote Lowe's, I'll promote Home Depot. They do sell them for about $2. Now, with a little bit of God-given ingenuity, you can create the Garden of Eden in your home. Instant organic gardening with harvest of fresh food that is fresh all the way up to its journey into your mouth as it gets crunched and crumbled by your hopefully successful dental. If you don't, blend it, juice it. But in this bag, I can grow within 7 days an organic salad, 15 pounds that will last longer than you could possibly conceive and imagine. 2 weeks of it in a refrigerator. In 7 days, it is grown. All you do is, this is the 5-gallon size. All you do is put in half a cup of mung beans, half a cup of lentils. These should be all raw, of course, organic preferred. You put in about also half a cup of alfalfa. And then throw in some quinoa, maybe a quarter of a cup. These are all seeds. You get them at your health food stores. And put in some maybe radish seeds, maybe some fenugreek seeds, maybe a little bit of wheat. And they're all in the bag. And then take a big bowl and put in a quarter of a teaspoon of sea salt and soak that bag in that filled tub basin of water. Might be a gallon of water. Let it soak in this bag overnight. Next morning, rinse it thoroughly in fresh water, and then prepare another solution of a gallon of water and a quarter of a teaspoon of whatever cheapest sea salt you can get. And rinse it in the morning, rinse it off, hang it up to dry, and do that in the evening. Within 7 days, this bag will be filled with 15 pounds of sprouts. Now, the beauty of doing this is organic foods are being quite expensive, but they are a bargain in terms of if you're just shopping for water, go and purchase the traditional vegetables, which will be 20 to 30, maybe even as much as 50% cheaper. But if you're shopping for nutrition, because then you're going to get nutrient-dense foods that have bioavailable iron 1,000 times higher than it is in the inorganic vegetables. The inorganic vegetables, they're all suffering from severe edema, internal toxemia. I had the good fortune one time to be shopping at a farmer's stand, and this individual had most delicious corn. And I asked him, is it all right if I went into the fields and picked my own corn? So I went into the fields and I picked corn to fill up a bushel basket. But I ran into an ear of corn that was really different from all the others. And this particular ear of corn had tumors and malignancies growing out of the seed itself. 2 seeds looked like super pregnant, as if they were going to give birth to 100 children. They were just extended almost the size of the whole ear, and they were black in color. Well, that's the corn that I wanted. I plucked that one. I put it also in my basket, and I looked at the stalk. I followed the stalk down the ground over there, and I saw a lot of the inorganic fertilizer that was deposited there. Of course, this inorganic fertilizer is poisoning the root system and poisoning the plant. But in order not to die and sacrifice itself, the corn innovated. Dr. Alexis Carrel, a Nobel Prize recipient, said, living entities under the duress of stress will do everything possible to innovate techniques of survival at the expense of longevity and vitality. This corn was being poisoned, and it sucked up this nitrogen-based fertilizer into 2 isolated seeds that just blew up. Some would call it a form of cancer, because that is exactly the mechanism of cancer. Dr. Williams, who is a head of a medical school and co-authored a book, Enzymes to Fountain Life, co-authored with 2 other MDs and a PhD, Mielke and Lopez, states that everybody has cancer cells. Everybody. Me too. Just like everybody has white blood cells, everybody has fatty cells. They're natural to your system. Would you try aggressively attack your white blood cells? No, unless you got leukemia. And that is something that you need to take a look at. Leukemia and cancer cells and fat cells have something very similar in terms of helping you to deal with macromolecules of indigestible food that you have taken the effort with love and care in your kitchen as a chemist to apply fire and acidity and disorganize the organic compounds so they become forms that is not recognized easily by your body system. I quote in my book, Survival into 21st Century, when under normal cooking, baking conditions, frying conditions, your body, the enzymatic digestive process recognizes only about 15% of the leftover from the frying and the cooking. And giving you out of that protein segment, only 15% of it is converted to amino acids. The rest of it ends up encouraging pathogenic, like E. coli and other toxic microbes and viruses to proliferate within your gastrointestinal tract. So, this disorganized food causes your white blood cells immediately as you're eating to go up by 300 to 500 and even higher percent. And if you are snacking all day long because you are not really hungry, two things are going on. You have, one is your body puts out the messages of hunger for one singular purpose. Your body is crying out for nutrition. Nutrients, not exaggerated volumes of starch, fat, and protein, which is what people are piling up by way of their oral cavity. Your body is crying out for phytonutrients, phytochemicals, vitamins in a raw state. It's crying out for enzymes that are destroyed when you heat it above 120 degrees. That's a little hotter than your bathtub water, that are disorganized. One of the most important essential nutrients that you could have in your system and the greatest therapeutic results that you could be getting. So this food gets very disorganized, and it is the incompletely metabolized food fragments. They end up getting through the gastrointestinal tract, skin, and into the interior. And they are causing havoc in the same way as if you were invaded by pathogenic microbes, E. coli, salmonella, or viruses. And the white blood cell goes up. It collects enzymes from the interior of your body to support the digestion process of what was not finished in the intestinal tract, because that's what enzymes do. They break down complicated starches into eventually glucose. They break down complicated proteins into eventually amino acids, which is what your body can utilize. It breaks down complicated fats into essential fatty acids and sugars and glucose. That is what's going on with the digestive process. And when you don't have adequate enzymes, and this is whether you're taking a look at a child being fed disorganized, heat-treated foods, or you're taking place a senior. Those senior has much more compromised and radical reduction to 1/1000th of the enzymatic reserves of an infant. Your digestive process is being challenged, and the body tries to harvest whatever enzymes it has within your body, and your body is a symphony of enzymatic reactions. Over 3,000 enzymatic processes have been identified that is part of your metabolism. Over 20 enzymes are recognized involved in the digestion, and another 10 involved in running your immune system. You are a harmony of enzymatic process. my waving my hand, standing, your ability to listen and breathe, it's all enzymatic. It's like you people here in the audience. You are the salt of the earth. You are the working force. You are what's making our country great and enabling it to get on the workforce. Well, in medical books and nutritional research books, they often refer to enzymes as the blue-collar workers because they do all the monotonous work, but they create the exciting results. It's as monotonous as the digital world, which is made up of yes-no answers, creating the most complex cyberspace communication networking that it was ever dreamed of. Instantaneous communication going on that created accelerated growth in every imaginable industry. Well, you have this this duality also, yes-no type of interior of enzymatic reactions that if you think multitasking is so super cool where someone could do, like Catherine I've seen do 5 things at the same time, well, that is pretty impressive. I'm hardly able to do one thing right at a time. However, what if you could do 10 things at the same time? That's pretty impressive. What about 10, 1 followed by 2 zeros? That's called 100. Wow! You'd be blown away. But what if there was another zero? Now 1,000 things being done at the same time. My God! That sounds like a big task to manage. But what if you put 26 zeros after the 1? And that is how many chemical reactions going on in your body every second. You are such a symphony of dynamic activity. The enzymes can carry off 1 billion reactions in a second in terms of splitting complicated macromolecules into simpler ones, a cascade. That is called the dance of life coming out of the divinity that orchestrates us. Nobody could ever fully comprehend the nature of the human body. So coming back to this work with white blood cells increasing after a cooked meal, if you consume a lot of raw foods, it might not increase too much or none at all. And there are certain foods that have high enzymatic activity. The highest enzymatic active foods are your fermented foods. Your fermented foods by way of sauerkraut. Many of you are familiar with yogurt, not the ones that are pasteurized. Look at the label. If it says pasteurized, avoid it. No, make it yourself. My gift to you this very moment is sauerkraut. All you do is go into instead of paying $7 or whatever it is a pound, do it yourself. Go out to the grocery store and purchase a head of cabbage, green cabbage, chop it up real well, pour it all in a blender, and any blender will do. You don't have to buy the $500 blender or whatever it is. You can buy an osterizer. They're the best blenders there is, and their price ranges from $19 to $55, depending on the power structure, but the $19 will do the job. Add into it now 2 cups of water, and if you've got some bacteria cultures, add them in. If you don't have the bacteria cultures, like in capsules or in old previous culture, well, all you do is pray over it, and God will provide a flood of friendly bacteria miraculously out of the air. And peel a beet. And you'll have sweet, sour relish that'll be delightful. Peel a beet, chop it up, put it in the blender. Then grab yourself a big carrot and turn on that blender on high speed. Start off by putting a lid on it because it might blow up like a volcanic eruption to the top of your ceiling. And once you see that nothing is happening, grab a big, huge carrot, a 12-inch carrot, and use it as a plunger. Bang it in there a few times. And within seconds, it'll be pulverized. You don't want it cream. Now you take that solution and you pour it in a glass container, like a big old canning mason jar, the wide mouth mason jar, and cover it with a green leaf, and then press it down with a wine bottle that will fit into the interior, and put it in the warmest place in the house. And within a matter of if you got bacteria cultures in there, SARS, within 16 hours, it will be sweet, sour, delightful. And this will be the highest source of enzymes in food category. Cultures that, and also loaded with friendly bacteria. It will protect you against all kind of flus. It might not protect you from doctors. Just say no in situations like that, because they are the drug pushers, and you want to say no to your drug dealers. Thank you kindly for your wonderful opportunity to exploit me, but I am not in the stage of stupidity or senility to allow you. Aren't you the third leading cause of death in the United States, according to your own admonition? According to Journal of American Medical Association 2000? Aren't you the number 1 and 2 cause of death, cancer, and cardiovascular diseases by the intervention? Because if there is no intervention, according to John Gaynor, a medical doctor, there are many fantastic, great, heroic medical doctors, mind you, including PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.org. You can find them on cyberspace. Over 3,000 who have taken a non-medical route. They are teachers. They teach you how to heal yourself by a plant-based diet, just the way in Genesis I-29. It is what is given by the Creator. We don't have to kill anymore. We need to love our animals and let them go on in their own ways. Otherwise, they get angry, and then you get mad cow's disease, and you end up getting the cancer and the bad breath and all these kind of things from turning your body into a graveyard for slaughtered animals. You should have, instead of wearing a hat, you wear a tombstone. You're a walking cemetery of dead bodies. So physicians, the physicians, many wonderful contributors to health and vitality in our own growth and development. And when in relationship to white blood cells, the white blood cell count, its overall increase just keeps on increasing if you have enzymatic exhaustion and you are continuously snacking for nutrition and all you're getting is starch, fat, and protein. And how much nutrition do you need? Well, we are all interested in energy, wellness, longevity, libido, and to be able to worship our Creator in a sane state of mind. Well, those things will not happen on SAD, Standard American Diet, or often colorfully referred to as the SAD diet, because it does bring on sadness, as you see by the craving for what? Tranquilizers. All those pill popping, the largest wing in any hospital is mental disorders, a place of confusion within the mind, yet Moscow Psychiatric Institute treated successfully. Schizophrenia, manic depression, all forms of depression, by putting people on a 3-week fast with exercise and following it up with a plant-based diet and continuing on a plant-based diet with fasting 2 weeks once a year, thus cleaning up the toxemia associated with even the best of nutritional approaches. Overindulgence with animal protein leads to tremendous havoc. And Journal of American Medical Association has covered these things, especially coming straight out of Harvard University on May 23rd, 2002, in Science section. It says, due to the increased microscope potential powers, we have been able to identify the fact that 100% of Americans on the standard American diet are suffering from inflammatory conditions associated with twisted proteins. They don't know of unknown origin. And they said, probably, more likely than not, all degenerative diseases, Alzheimer's disease, asthma, emphysema, are caused by these conditions of twisted protein creating inflammatory conditions. You might have seen Newsweek and Time magazine when they were covering, sadly enough, Alzheimer's disease. And the common observation was the brains of the Alzheimer's disease were somewhat different from normal individuals. They were filled with twisted proteins. They called them rubberized proteins. The brain looks like it was filled with rubberized protein. Oh, are you connecting the dots? Enzymatic exhaustion, and then you see studies published. Alzheimer's disease seems to be cured with enzymatic saturation in medical journals. Cancer, Chinpo Kim, treating successfully with a 79%, not as high as Dr. C. Dr. C really gets into the matrix, as one would say, what's really behind the scenes. And he gets it fast. At our place in Hippocrates Institute in West Palm Beach, we get pretty close to 100% success, but it's a much slower process. It takes 2 weeks for us to stop further development and growth of all forms of malignancies. We put people not only on intensive enzyme nutrition, but also intensive enzyme supplements, as well as cleansing, detoxification, not only of the physical body, but also of the emotional, mental. You can all Google up on the internet. One of the simpler ways, you got only 2 states of happiness. You either are happy or unhappy. All the other ones is just adjectives and adjuncts of different levels of happiness or different levels of sadness or unhappiness. So if you feel happy, keep on doing whatever you're doing. If you feel unhappy, well, just check immediately. Just think for a moment. Get a glance of the brain activity that is going on in your head that is contributing to your unhappiness. You'll see all kind of thoughts running there, self-judgment, replay of memories of disempowerment, abuse. The list is endless. You all know the litany. Well, you need to quiet those noises. And how are these noises created? Why is there ongoing tapes played in your head? Is it possible that you have implanted CDs? Some people with higher levels of imagination, they even have DVDs running through their brains. Where are they coming from? You can go out and purchase a DVD called What the Bleep is Going On. And it'll give you a very clear, from quantum physics and traditional physiology and psychiatry, you'll see how your hypothalamus harvests and inputs all the sensory data that is coming out by way of the 5 senses, and it writes a script of information, which is the CD. It's an organic compound, and it spills it out into the blood and goes right up to your it goes up to your pituitary to prepare for fight or flight or enjoy your life reaction. And when these toxic tapes are played, they are not part of your nutritional food. They are part of the twisted protein complex flooding your system. That's why when you got weird thoughts going on in your head, you are poisoning yourself no more than if you were taking arsenic in small dosages of self-loathing and hate. So you need to get rid of these CDs. And it's not an easy job because you have a house full of CDs stored in your fatty tissue, in your bone marrow, in your cells, that as you cleanse and detoxify, in the Christian tradition, they would say, you are possessed by devils, by demons, and they need to be taken out. Now, you can give a strong God flux through, and temporarily you will be healed. But Jesus said, go and sin no more. Don't play those CDs again. Quiet your mind. How do you quiet your mind? Well, you can use prayer. You can use contemplation, meditation. Go into that silent space of stillness. Quiet them. And then, of course, there is the mechanical intervention. You know when a CD gets stuck in your player, all you do is, boom, and it flies out of that player. You can shut off your mind. And in fact, there's a whole science. Right now, you can Google up. Bless Google. Many people have not been able to have contact with God, but I'll tell you, Google is the best backup for God. Just ask any question. Put in tapping, T-A-P-P-I-N-G plus healing. You'll find that there's a whole method of just tapping. A few times, and your mind is still. It forgets what it's all about. All it knows is being tapped. It doesn't know anymore the sadness that you were running through your mind. And the more often you do that, the more often you will still that brain from going crazy. And eventually, the devils will be out of your system. You will be a free being. Though, that's just psychological. Physiological level is just as important of cleansing and detoxification. In the Bible, fasting is mentioned more times than any other modality, right along with prayers. Fasting and prayers, and Jesus went into the desert to get rid of the demons, and then they came back still to haunt them. Few of them were left over. He wouldn't let them take possession because he knew he was the man. He knew he was the Son of the Creator. He needed no demons to honor him because he honored himself by following the laws of, in the Bible, the laws of nature, which is the creation of the Creator. And when you step out of nature, you step out of your own nature and you step out of life. And then you enter into the world of pain and suffering. There is no pain and suffering among the wildlife. That is self-induced. There is no cancer. There is no arthritis unless they're in a forest where the government is spraying with all kind of pesticides and insecticides, or they go out and dining in the garbage cans of civilization. Then, of course, you will find arthritis, rheumatism, like along our pets, which are suffering because we're not letting them live in their wild nature. In wild nature, there is no processing factories, factory manufactured foods. There's only God manufactured foods created in Genesis I-29 tradition, which was for all life forms and including the human life forms that evolved out of the Garden of Eden. If you want to go back to Garden of Eden, a place of wellness and health, you will return to Genesis I-29. If you want to live by the ways of fire, by the ways of man, and the ways of pain, suffering, oh, when will the cancer get me? Look at the genetics. My family's got a whole history of cancer or diabetes or heart disorders. Poo-poo. pure nonsense. It's your lifestyle, fool. It's what you think. It's what you eat. It's what you feel. It's what you breathe. It's what you drink. And you have created these entities which are there to serve you. And I will continue on in the tradition of service. Because we all have cancer cells, as we have the white blood cells, which increase radically. And if you keep on being subject to a chemical environment that is hyperactivating your immune system, the white blood cell level keeps increasing. And if you keep on snacking SAD food, the white blood cell count keeps on going up. And eventually, the number of white blood cells increases to such a level of inefficient behavior. They're bouncing into one another, and then you are melting down, and you have immune system diseases, leukemia. Yet Dr. Kolikovsky, a medical doctor, published his results in 1972 in Lancet, which is as prestigious as Journal of American Medical Association, as well as in the Polish Medical Association, leukemia cure. How come? 40 years later, we will find the cure for leukemia. Give us more money, 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 money. They don't want to find a cure for leukemia. There's no money in that. But there is money in torturing your children. Infantile leukemia was treated successfully with alkaline nutrition and low protein diet. And then when they went back to their traditional eating, the children once again got leukemia. Now normally, any kind of cure that is successful, any degree of success with leukemia, they have next to impossible to duplicate it after the recurrence of leukemia. Here, the kids went back to the protocol, and they got leukemia disappeared. They repeated it half a dozen times. And they said only 10 out of 11 children were successfully treated in this fashion. And they said we probably did not discover the optimal nutritional program yet. Yes, leukemia serves an important reflection of traffic jam. Cancer is something that you all have cells all the time. They are part of your immune system doing the following task. They are good at one thing, which is acting like vacuum cleaners. Dr. LePage, Dr. Midler, and other researchers refer to cancer cells as nitrogen traps, protein dump sites. I call them the vacuum cleaner for protein fragments that are in circulation. And they're in circulation. The volume of cancer cell growth is very much related to the volume of your enzymatic reserves and your alkalinity. The more acid you are, the more you become prone to, number one, chronic fatigue. You want energy, vitality, fully functional mental. You need energy, just like your car won't start if you don't have enough electricity, which is created by the polarity between acid and alkalinity. The same situation exists in your body. You have a balance of alkaline, cytoplasm in each one of your cells, and the nucleus of each one of the cells is added. Acids creating electrovoltage potential. The cells are hooked up into tissues into muscle, and that creates the power. Alkalize someone, as an example, we take Catherine, you could speak to her about this great heroine, Dan O'Brien. Dan O'Brien was a man who had a vision. He wanted to go to the Olympics. He competed at many international sports events, and he had the grandiose idea that he was going to go and become an Olympic competitor. That's at most you would hope for, at least in this lifetime. But as he was training, by the time that 10 o'clock came around, he was on an SAD diet. He was fatigued. He had no more energy. He needed to rest, recover for the next day. He happened to be living in Klamath Falls, Oregon. Some of the people, like Catherine Clark, introduced him to alkaline nutrition, I'm talking about in a pill form, which was blue-green algae. Enzymes in a pill form. Bacteria cultures would protect you against all the pathogenic microbes. And he started consuming this stuff because it was for free. We gave it to him. He didn't have a budget. And within a matter of a month or so, he was now working out in the late afternoon and evening. And he went to the Olympics in Atlanta. And he competed with men who were 10 years younger. Not only did he break all world records in decathlon, which is one of the most difficult competitive events, he went home with gold. He still looks like a youngster. That's the influence that jump-starting your life with some wonderful superfoods. And there are quite a few of the people who came to the show are offering their range of superfood. All I can share is with what has been my experience. I've seen my own grandmother who had Alzheimer's disease and was bedridden. My parents asked me to be a caregiver. I went home because my granny raised me. My mother was always busy working 24/7. My dad was always working on 3 different jobs. The result was, after a while, I just prayed for guidance and asked, what could I do for this woman? For I was, and though knowledgeable, but still knowledge is without wisdom is stupidity and confusion. I wish, even though I've seen so many miraculous results, how do I apply to a specific case of a person who definitely spits at you whenever you give her natural foods? I prayed and the God came through me with clearness. Give her something to assist with her digestion. Enzymes. She was constipated. Give her something of God-given herbs to make sure her bowels work. She had very congested blood vessels. Give her something, cayenne, that opens up, dilates the capillaries. And then there was Victor Coleman, who did the pioneer research with blue-green algae and Alzheimer's disease. Later on, Dr. Gabriel Cousin, author of Spiritual Nutrition, which I wrote the introduction to it, a medical doctor. The research, it slows and or reverses, depending on the dosage of blue-green algae Alzheimer's disease, especially with enzymatic saturation, because it helps, and cayenne opens up the circulation in the blood vessels. And my grandmother, I gave them this remedy. That was all I was given. And I continued to give her the medications that doctors were insistent for my grandmother's kidney, for her liver, for her heart, for her lungs. He was a walking pill popper. And I saw no change. Yet, I kept doing it. It's like you put seed in the soil and you see no change. But you keep on doing it, the right thing. You water it. You provide, let the Creator provide sun. And provide some good nutritional feeding into the soil. And the result is something happens. A seedling arises. Eventually a tree is grown. Well, 6 weeks or so go by, and one morning my mother comes down to go to work at 1 o'clock in the morning, and she thinks she's having hallucinations because the doctors promised she'll never walk. My grandmother not only was walking, she prepared breakfast of scrambled eggs, coffee, some burnt toast, and my mom couldn't believe there she was, and chattering in the level of what she has been accustomed to in the past. My grandmother operated the household for another 3 years without any lifestyle change. Others make lifestyle changes in their late years. A man, Noel Johnson, read my book, Survival, he was already on his way to old age homes. That's where the children were going to put him away. However, he said, I'd rather die than go there. These guys look creepy. It looks like a concentration camp. So, he made an effort to exercise. He found a book, Survival, How to Feed Himself. He developed an attitude. I even have a chapter, a major chapter, The Science of Happiness. For happiness is a choice. It's up to you. And you can be happy all the time. There is no unhappy moments. For God is flowing through you, and God is a God of joy. And God is a learning experience. You just appreciate all the traumas, just like Job. My God, was he ever traumatized? Didn't let things get in his way. Well, Noel Johnson started exercising and eating better. It was called grazing. He ate only enough to satisfy hunger, and he ate whole natural foods. Well, years later, he wrote a book, Dud at 70, Stud at 80. In his 90s, he's still doing marathons. Yet he was a disabled individual that was going to be going to retirement into the old age death homes. It's up to you. Wake up. It's your responsibility. Even the Surgeon General, Dr. Pope, after hired by the late President Johnson to find out why America was #1 in the technical countries, as well as over 40 other nations had far higher life expectancy after the age of 40 than in the USA. And 65% of Americans were suffering from incurable diseases created by our technological society. Diseases that did not exist 100 years ago. They were in none of the medical books. There was no mention of heart disorder, stroke, or heart attack, or cancer. It is our crazy experiment of greed trying to entrap nutrition into those little cans and boxes and microwave ovens. It just doesn't work. Our society falls apart. But the Surgeon General came back with a report over 1,000 pages after a decade of looking at all the top ongoing research and everything in the field of health and wellness, and they came to the conclusion right in the beginning of the book. It says, as far as wellness and health is concerned, do not expect any help from your doctors. This is a medical doctor speaking. Or any hospital treatments, or any scientific breakthrough. The whole issue of health and wellness resides in the holistic model, the 5 basic principles: diet, exercise, attitude. Within the attitude umbrella is not only the issue of emotional, but you can detoxify yourself emotionally, physically, but if you don't have a personal relationship with the Creator, you will never be a happy camper. You'll be always a lost soul, always for the next pitch, the next spin, the next extroverted fad. It's your choice. Not only attitude, but then be add on rest, and be add on the environment, the pollution environment. You guys got a pretty clean environment here. Well, coming back to personal responsibility. So we're going to share more tools in a minute about what you can do to really move into that arena. Many of you already are halfway there. Just more steps. Letting that seed blossom eventually into a tree. You know, I never expected to be flexible with the way I just demonstrated, and that's just a simple example. Advanced arthritis, migraines for 25 years. My face looked like track marks with acne and pimples oozing. I went to the best medical doctors. But in the end, I turned to the Creator. I kept begging, and praying. And eventually, I was led to the truth. The truth will set you free. And in my 70s, I feel healthier, more vital. And I'm praying for more light, more visions. Because it comes from the source. I still have some things going on in me that has not left me in the total image of the Creator. For we are all beautiful, pure, perfectly operating and working. So you keep asking, because there's an answer. There's something that needs to be brought in or removed, or just a shift. So I know what it feels like. And in relationship to cancer cells, well, Dr. John Gaynor, in Science News in 1972, showed that he was a biochemist, industrial chemist, in a high-protein solution, colloidal solution. It was next to impossible to introduce gases. And he raised the question, what if we have in a living system a high-protein presence? Would that influence the gas of oxygen in transport? And he found that under the duress of high-protein dietary, which is common, that sludge that we talked about straight out of Harvard Medical School, well, 60% drop in oxygen level takes place. You can't live with such a radical reduction. Every metabolic reaction in your body relies on oxygen, and you're reducing it by 60%, and much higher for a lot of individuals, because they have also they have very minuscule levels of red blood cells and hemoglobin to absorb oxygen and carry it to extremities. So this traffic jam of protein fragments are interfering with oxygen transports. And the fragments are coming due to the fact that you have exhausted or radically diminished your enzymatic, namely the proteolytic enzymes that are involved in digesting protein. So incompletely metabolized fragments are getting through the gastrointestinal gut leakage into the interior. So here comes the work of Otto Warburger. Otto Warburger took normal tissue cultures, put them in a glass dome, and showed by reducing the oxygen level by as little as 30%, normal cells mutated to cancer cells. And the cancer cells, as I said, they serve an important function. As long as there's not too many of them, they clean out the blood vessel of circulatory protein, and now normal oxygen can go on. And when you stop abusing yourself by acidifying due to lack of raw, fresh vegetables, and eating too much animal protein, your enzymatic system breaks down.
I'm going to cut this fine young man short, because he can go on and talk for another 100 years. I want to encourage you to buy his book. This book was written way before its time. Victoris is a visionary. And please, this book is in the back, Survive in the 21st Century. I would encourage any of you to buy this book. It makes a wonderful Christmas present. And support Victoris, because he needs your support. And because when you stand alone, like he has, for over 50 years, it's about time that somebody stands with him. Not behind him, stand with him and support him, because he is the reason this show is here today. Because I find Victoris as my closest spiritual being that I've met on this planet. And I would love you to get to know him better. So thank you for coming, and we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll return with Fred Van Loo. Thank you.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean's wide reach. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. One more time, a little more. God bless America, land that I love. Stay